We're in the United States of America. Look at this. We are literally 2.5 miles from where the Declaration of Independence was signed.
I haven't seen it like this anywhere in the world. I've been to 85 countries.
They became heroin addicts. My brother was one of them, 12 years old. That's the average age. Go ahead, Weed.
Look at this family just trying to navigate all this.
He won't get up? Come on, my man. See, people don't see this. Kensington Avenue was the main corner of the city.
Of Philly.
Philly. Last year, I believe it was 10 million needles they gave out.
Absolutely no cameras.
Yeah.
So why no transparency
Don't know.
if that's city money?
63 homicides in a 2-block radius.
Oh, what a little oasis here.
Phew. In 10 minutes, we can have you in a bed.
I am city council.
I love your perspective. Hopefully in 10 years, this is a video everyone can watch and be like, wow, that was crazy. They allowed that to happen on.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to A Conservative Confucius here. We are going to be covering something that's a little more closer to home with me. I grew up in a family that had a lot of issues, and I had some of my own issues. And some of those issues right now, the people all across the United States and across the world are dealing with, and it's destroying the country. It is killing people in larger numbers than ever seen before. And I have some experience in this area. And I want to share my experience a little bit. I want to go over some of the dangers that's going on with this. And we're going to watch a little bit from PragerU to kind of go over some of the stuff that's going on with fentanyl. But I guess I'll start off and kind of go through a little bit of the history of mine. Sorry, guys. I was adopted when I was a little kid. My adoptive brother and sister, not related to them, they had been adopted prior to that when they were babies, or little kids. One was like a year old, the other one was like 6 days old. I was adopted later than all those, but they had issues. They were both from bad families. My adoptive sister is a horrible person to this day. She came from a crackhead mother. My adopted brother, actually, I don't think my adopted brother came from a bad family, but he had lots of mental health issues. And he's a good person now. I mean, he's doing great. But both of them struggled severely with drugs and alcohol and other things. I grew up in that environment. They were constantly being sent away to programs, even though we didn't have money for this because we were broke from sending them to these places. Eventually, we ended up having to move and sell our house and go to a smaller place. And it continued down this path until I was a teenager, and I thought I was smarter than them. I thought, well, I can still have fun with my friends and party and go out, but I'm not going to become an addict. I'm not going to become this thing that they became. I can do what they did and get away with it and not get sucked into that. I was wrong. I started raving. I did ecstasy. I did cocaine. Eventually I got into heroin when I was 13. 13, I'm saying. I did that off and on for a very long time until I was about 20 years old. Got clean for years. I'm talking years and years. And when I moved to Philadelphia, which we opened up with, this is why I did that, I was working in Kensington. I was the only one who would accept that position because it was a delivery job in Kensington and no one else wanted to. And I said, well, money is money, and everything else got screwed over. I'd moved there to be a photographer. The moving company stole my photography equipment and all my other stuff, basically, everything important. And so I was like, a job is a job. Well, within a few months, everything was going wrong. I was not doing well. I didn't have an ID, so I just couldn't get paid yet, and everything was going wrong. And I ended up relapsing. And it wasn't because I was craving dope. I just was constantly in Kensington, and people would ask you, hey, you want a free sample? And I said no. Every time I said no. And eventually they realized I was going to say no. And at this time, it's about November, pretty cold, so I'm wearing a coat, and it had big pockets all over it. Eventually, after I stopped, I kept declining their requests for free samples of fentanyl. They started sticking the little bags in my coat pockets, like on the back of my coat, like right here on the side back. And they would put it in there. And one day I couldn't find my cigarettes. And I was like, what the hell is it? So I just took my coat upside down and went like that and shook it out. And out falls 13 baggies of fentanyl. They had been sticking them in there over and over for weeks, for about 2 weeks. And somehow I never noticed this. I didn't use the pocket. It wasn't anything important to me in there. I was shocked to see that was in there. And I put them in a drawer because I didn't want to flush them because I didn't know what that would do to the water system. I didn't want to throw them away and someone find them. So I was like, I'll get rid of them somehow. I'll like mix them up with liquid and pour them into the dirt or something like that. And I just forgot to. So I put them in a drawer and I forgot about them. And about 2 weeks went by, or about a week and a half, and my depression was spiraling. Everything was going wrong. I had no family, no friends there. And my job was killing me. I finally was able to get paid, but it was like I wasn't able to get all the payment up at once. I'm struggling. I'm barely eating. And yeah, everything just kept going wrong. And eventually I said, okay, whatever. And I tried some of the dope. I did it. Not knowing it was fentanyl, actually. They had told me it was dope. I thought it was dope because they yell out, I got this, I got that dope, I got that whatever. And they'll say a brand name, Nike, Mortal Kombat, whatever, Big Bunny, Bad Money, American Gangster, Blue Magic, all these different names, from movies, some named after clothing companies, some named after video games, all kinds of stuff. And I didn't know that brand names had always been given to heroin, and that was my knowledge. That was all I heard about the East Coast and movies and other things and people I knew on the East Coast. But I guess since fentanyl came around, that had changed. And they started naming the fentanyl brand names and then just calling dope. I thought I was doing dope. I got sucked into it within 3 months. 3 months. That's all it took. I had gotten down to rock bottom quicker than I had never hit rock bottom, truly hit rock bottom when I was on heroin. I quit because I matured past the point of wanting to use anymore. It wasn't interesting to me. And I just didn't want to do it. I didn't like it. It was too much effort and pain and it just stupidness. And I was like, okay, I'm done. But this stuff, it took me less than 3 months to hit a worse point than I had hit with heroin. I was screwed. I'm miserable. I'm doing like around $300 a day in fentanyl, around 45 bags a day. And the people you saw in that opening clip, they're using 2 to 3 to 4, maybe 5 bags a day. That's it. At most 5 or 6 bags a day. I was using minimum 45 bags a day, like 9 bags per shot. This was awful. And I luckily got clean right before COVID lockdown. I got on methadone there. I moved back to AZ. I sold my house. I paid all the fees just to get out of my rent. And I sold everything I had in that apartment, my bed, my everything I sold. I came back to Arizona. I bought things back. Arizona is where my parents live right now. It's not the original place where I'm from, but I've lived there since I was a teenager. And so I moved back there. I wanted to get my old house back. Sadly, we had already gotten up with it, even though I would have still had it if I would have kept the rent. We should have done that and kept it for a little longer. It would have been smart. It was a great house. But yeah, I come back. I live with my parents for a little bit. I keep on the methadone and I get clean. And even with the methadone, it was hard because that stuff is insane. And that's what I want to tell people. This is a huge issue. It is everywhere. I work with addicts today. I help at a methadone clinic with counseling and other things and drug, like group meetings and stuff. And I help them. And I'm telling you right now, since I was there a few years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago or something like that, they've grown so much. And that's just one of like 10 clinics in Phoenix, Arizona, and like East Valley and Mesa and Gilbert and all that stuff. Or the clinic I was at started off when I was there, it was 7,000 people were there, and that's it. And other ones had a few hundred thousand over a few locations, or like had 10,000 at one clinic. But this one only had 7,000. Right now, 3 years later, the exact same clinic and its 2 locations have over 500,000 people. And that's one of 10 clinics. So you have close to probably 10 million people who are on methadone or Suboxone or Subutex. This is how big of an issue it is, and people don't realize it. And until they do, American after American will continue to die. People will suffer. And until we stop illegal immigration and close down the border, this issue will never end. It will never cease to end. And people say, oh, well, it'll still get in. People will still find it. That's the thing, though. You won't. When prices go up, people get clean. When it's hard for them to find good stuff, they either get clean or it's it really. You either get clean or pay more. And the people who pay more is a very small percentage of people who can afford to pay more. And the more it goes up and the crappier it gets, the more and more people will get clean. And the less people will overdose too, because if it's crappy and more expensive, they're going to be paying less and it's going to be less potent. So why is it? So they're going to be paying more and it's going to be less potent. And so they're not going to want to put their life or mess their life up for something that's not even doing what they originally had it doing. So people will say, okay, I'm done, get clean. But until we close down the border, recognize this problem for the real problem it is, nothing will ever change. But yeah, don't forget to go down there, guys. Smack that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and don't forget to share this video. Let's get down to the other stuff. All righty.
In the ugly history of illicit drugs, no drug is more deadly than fentanyl. Not cocaine, not meth, not heroin. Every day, fentanyl kills over 200 Americans, rich, poor, black, white, old, young, especially young. Fentanyl is a cheap synthetic opioid that is incredibly dangerous for two reasons. First, it's 50 times stronger than heroin. Just a sugar packet's worth of fentanyl would kill over 500 people. Second, fentanyl is used to create counterfeit versions of popular prescription drugs. These fake pills look identical.
Yeah, so just so they know, because they're not going to know that much, fake Xanax, fake Percocet is the most popular one, fake blue 30 Percocet, fake Xanax, of course, all different kinds, mainly the white bars, but they come in the green and yellow as well, and also sometimes in other round ones too. What else? Fake ecstasy, which is designer drug, but it's still fake. Fake THC pills, fake lots. I mean, there's just so many fake, like it's mainly Xanax, Percocet, and ecstasy. Those are the three types that are most commonly found to have fentanyl in it.
To the real ones, Xanax, Adderall, Oxycontin,
not Adderall,
Percocet,
though.
and others.
Yeah.
You can't see.
Well, Oxycontin doesn't exist anymore, so that's not relevant. Codone, aka Percocet, yeah, you'll see those. Xanax, yes. Adderall, you won't see that. MDMA or ecstasy, you'll see that. And then also cocaine. I've heard that people are putting it in cocaine.
Smell or taste the difference. Even agents from the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, can't tell the difference between the real pill and a counterfeit one.
That's not true. They can. It's just really depending on how good the presses are. Sometimes the press is crappy and the font is a little different and the color is a little off. Sometimes they're identical matches, but it's rare that you find one that's an identical match.
Fentanyl isn't just deadly poison. It's deadly poison in disguise. And most kids who die from it had no idea they were even taking it.
Yeah.
13-year-old Luke Emanuel is one of those kids.
Like I said, though, in the East Coast and all over the West Coast now, too, your people are buying powdered fentanyl, and it's cut with xylazine. And the fentanyl isn't the dangerous part. The reason people are dying left and right isn't actually the fentanyl for the most part. What they're dying from is xylazine. You can actually watch a Vice drugs documentary from years ago about Puerto Rico. I think they call it the Puerto Rican zombie drug, or it might be Puerto Rican zombie land or whatever is the name of the episode, but you can look it up. Just type in Vice Puerto Rico zombie drug. And that's about xylazine. So it was used before it was mixed with fentanyl, but Puerto Rican and Dominican gangs in Kensington that were big in the fentanyl game started using it because they said, well, fentanyl doesn't make you nod off like this. Like when you see people nod it off like that, that isn't because of the fentanyl. Fentanyl cannot make a person nod off like this. That doesn't happen. It is a drug where you're either completely out and sleeping basically, or completely overdosed or whatever, or you're just, a little bit, not nauseous, but a little bit out of it, and just kind of tired, and your eyes may be a little heavy, but you're not going to be nodding off. And that's why they knew that that's the issue. It doesn't have a rush either when it hits you. It doesn't have that rush where you're like, ugh. So they said, okay, well, we need to put something in it that gives it this kind of another Like people want to nod off. That's what they said. People were mad that they weren't nodding off like they were on heroin. So they wanted to keep the business in the fentanyl game. So they started cutting it with xylazine, which they now call trank or trank dope. And this is everywhere. I mean, even in Arizona, with the place I work at with the addicts there, they have little signs now. I'm not kidding, that say, beware of xylazine, aka trank or trank dope. And it's everywhere now. It's all over the East Coast. It's made its way into Arizona. It's all over Kensington. It wasn't Kensington originally, just Kensington. And people all over the East Coast would drive to Philadelphia to pick up, and then they would take it back to their places. Philadelphia was like the big hub for like the epidemic of powdered form of fentanyl. And then Arizona was like the big like place for the pills, the blue pills. And they kind of like now have merged all over the country, and now everywhere has everything. It's really insane. And yeah. So they cut the xylazine they used in the fentanyl. If you OD on the xylazine, there's no saving you. The only way to keep a person alive, if they OD on xylazine, the tranquilizer part, if there's too much tranquilizer, if they OD on that, the only way to keep them alive is by breath, by keeping them breathing. So you're using either like one of those little, those little handheld airbags, or you're literally giving them mouth to mouth over and over again until they wake up enough where they can breathe on their own. And I've seen this firsthand. I've had to give a guy CPR who was ODing. It was awful. Luckily, someone actually came out of the Walgreens, which was near the bus stop. I was walking my dog, and someone came out with a little mouthpiece from the Walgreens for me to put on the dude, so I didn't have to put my mouth on him, which was so much better than having to do that on a gross, just dirty homeless guy. But luckily, I saved his life. He was able to be good. And I mean, I've saved probably 5 or 6 people from ODing, but this stuff, it was insane. I couldn't stop. It wasn't like once he started breathing, then he kind of woke up for a sec, he'd go back out, and it'll continue to happen. And most of the time, once you get them breathing enough, they'll kind of wake up, and, you kind of just put some cold water on their neck, and maybe even their private parts, which is supposedly like the best thing to do. But normally you can't do that unless you know the person, obviously. But once you can get them awake, that's what it is normally for opiates. But this, you're dead if you don't keep them breathing. That's why this is so deadly. The new fentanyl craze isn't deadly just because of fentanyl. It's deadly because of xylazine. And no one, not even PragerU, is going to mention this, probably. And what this stuff does is when people inject it, if they miss it, it actually doesn't react well with the skin and stuff. It eats away at your skin if you miss too much. And you'll see people today, all these addicts who are in wheelchairs with a one leg missing or one arm missing and their shirt tied up. That's because they literally had it eaten away from xylazine. And until people realize how dangerous this is, it will never end. The xylazine is what we need to be focusing on too, because they're getting it from somewhere in America, most likely, not from China or other places. Xylazine is a tranquilizer that can be gotten by doctors and vets. So we need to be focusing on where that's coming from. That will cut the number of overdoses in half or less.
In August 2020, Luca went on Snapchat, a social media app popular for drug sales because messages are anonymous and instantly disappear. He bought what he thought was a Percocet from a dealer. Hours later, Luca was found dead in his bedroom for fentanyl poisoning. His mom, Amanda, said that it was no Percocet. It wasn't even mixed with Percocet. He only had fentanyl in his system.
Yep.
Amanda still can't believe that her son
blue
is gone.
Percocet, most likely.
The last time I held my son was in a body bag. Tasha Edwards knows Amanda's pain. Her daughter Brianna, 18, had just graduated from high school. To celebrate, she went to a weekend party with friends. When Tasha hadn't heard from her for more than 12 hours, she got frantic. She asked her eldest daughter to scour social media for any information about where Brianna might be. They soon got their answer. An Instagram photo of Brianna with the caption, "OMG, I lost my best friend last night." Later, Tasha found out that Brianna had been offered a pill at the party. She was told it was Percocet, and she and her friend split it. Brianna was dead within hours, but her friend survived. How is that possible?
Because
counterfeit pills are made so sloppily that
half of the pill could be stronger than the other half. Not only that, she could have just had a stronger tolerance. She could have had been someone who takes opiates on a regular basis, and it could have just been that. So it could be, you could blame it on sloppy making and everything like that. But you could also blame it on the fact that the other girl has probably done opiates more. And that's just like a fact. You can't say it's one or the other.
One part of a pill can contain a lethal dose of fentanyl while the other doesn't. A lot of people feel like when this happens, it's happening to bad kids or troubled kids or kids who are addicts, Tasha said.
Not always.
My daughter had never popped pills.
That's why
I didn't
she
even know
had that
about
happen.
fentanyl until I read it on my daughter's death certificate. Mexican drug cartels are responsible for spreading this poison. They create fentanyl with chemical compounds imported from China. They use this fentanyl to give their newly pressed counterfeit pills their potency. These pills are then moved across the border to dealers all over the U.S.
Yep.
You might be asking,
they don't come in.
Why?
So that's wrong. The majority of them do not come in Texas. Texas has too much drug security and too many border crossings where they'll get stopped. Even if they get let go, they'll get stopped. And if they have drugs in them, they won't get let go. So they go in here, right here in Arizona, near Nogales and where some of the gaps are over here and here. They go through the desert and they use carpet on their shoes to obscure their tracks. And then they stop at Catholic Charities in the desert to get water. And the cartel runs the security for the Catholic Charities, which are run by American Catholic churches, by the way. And then they get rides to Phoenix or Tucson or, Flagstaff or LA or wherever they're going, or New Mexico, wherever they're going from where they are. And they'll set up the rides there. And it's pretty crazy.
All over the U.S. You might be asking, why do the cartels make a drug that kills off many of their customers? The answer is money. It costs cartels only 10 cents to produce a counterfeit pill that can then be sold for $10 in the United States.
Yeah, they were being sold for $10. I remember this just because before I relapsed, but when I'd been clean for years, I still had friends who were in recovery, and they would often tell me like what's going on in the world of that crap and of that stuff. And before I moved to Philadelphia, the fentanyl pills had just become popular, but they were crazy expensive. That's when they were around $10 a pill or $8 a pill, I remember. And then when I got back from Philly, they were down to $5, and now they are so cheap. I work with these people every day, so I hear how cheap they are, literally. And I used to work with cartel members when I was using, and I had cartel dealers. I mean, literally what I'm telling you is no joke. So right now they're selling for an average of $1 to $2. $2 is about the highest you'll see them for nowadays, maybe $3 or $4 if you don't know a person, but the average is $2. I hear this every day from people who are struggling, who is still in the game with that stuff, and it is insane. Like, people need to realize, even a 14-year-old who doesn't have money, who's broke, they can afford this stuff. This is the drug that is cheaper than any other drug, and it is deadly. So people need to beware. I just gave my child $5 so he could go to the gas station. Are you sure he went to the gas station with that money? Are you sure he didn't just call a friend and buy a couple pills off him? Because literally that's what they could do. That 2 pills is more than enough to kill a kid. $5, that's all it would take. This isn't back when I was a kid when you had to pay, $40 for a half gram of heroin that wouldn't do anything to you except for maybe make you nod off. This is far, far, far different. And parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles need to wake up.
Profits are enormous. 1,000 dead kids a year or 100,000 dead kids a year hardly matters to them. They're just collateral damage, a business expense. Tiffany Eiler, 21, was a pre-med junior at Ohio State. In May 2022, Tiffany's father had planned to pick her up after finals. Sadly, before he arrived, she had died in her apartment alongside her best friend Jessica Lopez, a computer science major. They had taken what they thought was Adderall, a prescription drug that college students have been known to use.
I've never seen that unless it was a capsule version of Adderall where someone could take the little, I don't know, they're not powder in the inside of the capsules of Adderall. It's like weird little balls. I remember when I was younger, some dude had a prescription for one and I saw it and I was like, that's weird. So unless it was the capsule, a lot of Adderall is capsules. So unless they did that, emptied out the stuff in there and put powdered in the capsule, that's the only way I could see it happening, because Adderall is an upper, not a downer. It's just, so is cocaine. It's an upper, not a downer, but it's the cartel deals in cocaine. The cartel never messes with Adderall. Like, this doesn't seem. That seems more like someone personal did that. Like someone was out to get these two. The only case I've ever heard of Adderall being corrupt, but being laced with fentanyl.
Use to boost their concentration. But a coroner's report showed that both Tiffany and Jessica had actually died of fentanyl poisoning. They had no Adderall in their systems. How do we stop this scourge? Every young man and woman needs to be aware of the risks of experimenting with drugs in the age of fentanyl. Fentanyl has completely changed the game. Experimenting with pills has never been deadlier because the drug supply has never been deadlier. In 2023, 7 in 10 counterfeit pills seized by the DEA contained a lethal dose of fentanyl. So, do not accept any pill of any kind if it didn't come from a doctor or pharmacist. Even if your best friend offers you a pill, it could contain fentanyl and they wouldn't even know it. Take that pill, make a single bad choice, and you could wake up dead. In the age of fentanyl,
you don't wake up dead. You don't wake up at all. I think a better choice is, and you could not wake up, or you could end up not waking up or something. You could wake up dead is such a stupid line.
Your life is a coin toss. Heads you get high, tails you die. The only way to win this twisted game is to refuse to play. I'm James Fishback, founder of NEO, the new drug talk for Prager University.
Obviously, he needs to learn a little bit more. I'm assuming he probably didn't have any life in that game, but it's always better to have someone who knows what they're talking about with that stuff. But yeah, still a good amount of information is true in there, and I think it's important for kids to see that, and parents too. Let's see if let's show you some more of this is downtown Philly. That's Market Street, regular stuff, normal Philadelphia. This is where I worked and basically lived once I got messed up. This is Allegheny and F. I used to pick up right in this neighborhood right behind here. This is Allegheny. That's the subway station. And then, this is Allegheny and Kensington. That's Kensington. F is up the street. Allegheny and F is where I used to pick up, down on F Street in Clearfield. And this is how bad it is. I mean, it was bad like this then. It's not worse now. I would even say it's a little bit better than it was then. It was awful then. People aren't as nodding off as much. The trash is the same. There's probably poop everywhere and stuff. It was just pretty regular. There's always some type of, ambulance blocking traffic and shit. And normally these people are on that side, not this side. But you'll see everyone just suiting up right in front of you, and track marks and bruises and blood and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, they used to all be up here. These shops used to all be open too. It's crazy. They were getting worse and worse. Yeah, so right up, where is it? Right up here. You go up this street right here. This is Clearfield. You go up here. Let's see if he actually looks down or turns right. Let's see. Come on, turn the phone. Turn it. Hold on. No. Let's see. Whatever. If you go up that other one, to the blocks that run across, run down on this side, those streets, all the corners sell, and so does almost every other corner. This street doesn't have a lot of corners, but Clearfield has tons. F Street has tons. There's a big like park, like a little grass park with like a weird little like kind of old style Romanish looking building, like a little pillars and everything, and a little like kids park. And that's whole place. That whole grass is filled with needles. It's awful. Like this whole city is just a crap hole. Like it's so bad. Yeah. Basically what you'll see is like someone on a corner, in a neighborhood corner, will be see if I can find a neighborhood corner. Well, that looks like F Street right there. Yeah, G Street. Okay. So let's just say you go down G Street and there's a street and there's a street and there's a street and there's a street. And each of those streets, those corners, you'll have a guy on the corner screaming out, I got that whatever, I got that dope, I got that whatever, in a brand name, basically. I got that Nike, I got that dope, I got that Nike. And what that means is he's got both H and fentanyl. And then you'll go up to him and say, hey, I need something. And then he'll say, okay, up the block. You go up the block, and there'll either be a guy standing there handing it out, and collecting money and handing it out, or you'll go up to a door and there'll be like a hole. There'll be no handle on the door, and the lock will be gone and the handle will be gone. You stick the money in the top part, and the guy sticks his hand through, and you get your stuff. It's insane. Like, it's kind of, if you've ever seen The Wire, it's like that, but like far more ghetto than The Wire. Like, if you think everything in The Wire is some ghetto hood, it ain't even close. This is like, the first time I was in this area, I saw a guy get shot in the face 5 feet from my car on Clearfield down there. And it was on Clearfield and right before Kensington. And Clearfield and Custer, basically, which is the most popular block there. Across the street, same exact time as that, 15 guys are jumping and stabbing a dude to death. And yeah, I mean, that was the first time I was there. It was horrible. I was working there before I had relapsed or anything at the time. And it was awful. People don't realize how bad it is. I didn't want to work there anymore, but I needed a job. And I started carrying my gun on me every day after that. And yeah, people need to be aware this is going on in our country and how bad it is and how much it's infested everywhere in our country, not just Philadelphia, not just Seattle, not just LA, not just San Francisco. This is everywhere now, guys. But yeah, I want you guys to be careful. I want you guys to be safe. Make sure that you keep your mind about you, keep your wits about you, and use your smarts, guys. Don't let the common sense fail you. Don't get into drugs. If you guys need help with drug counseling or rehabilitation or some type of treatment and you're watching this, make sure you go and message me or comment below, and I will give you guys information to the best clinic and drug counseling in your area. So let me know what city you live in and what city and state you live in, and then I'll give you guys the best information for that. But yeah, alrighty, guys. Don't forget to go down there, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and don't forget to share this video if you guys like it. I hope you guys like this one. It was a little different in tone, but I wanted to cover something that meant something to me that I've been trying to help bring exposure to. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys.